The most common question I get is probably what brush do I use because of my shading and my character illustration process. I could sell you the brush or I can give it away, but I want to show you how to make it yourself, something to do with fish and teaching you how to do that versus giving them to you or whatever. Anyways, we are going to be making the best Photoshop brushes for realistic shading, and we're going to do it step by step. Now, of course, this will come down to personal preference ultimately, so I'm going to show you how to customize it to your liking as well. Now, for this digital art tutorial, I'm going to be using Adobe Photoshop, but you should be able to easily replicate this using other digital art software such as Procreate, Clip Studio Paint, Krita, and so on. Now, first I want to show you some examples of this brush in action. So here is a work in progress video coming soon. And if I zoom in here, you can see the texture of the brush coming through, especially along the edge of the shadow shapes. Now, if you can guess who these characters are, feel free to leave a comment below. I'll be surprised if you don't recognize them. Now, here is another work in progress video also coming soon. And if I zoom in here, especially in the darker areas, you can see the texture of that brush coming through. It has a sort of graphite texture to it. Now, having a brush that suits you does feel nice, but it's going to take more than that if you want to learn how to draw characters like this. So below this video, there is a link to a free guide that I've made for you, which will walk you through how to unlock the skills that you need in order to draw better characters with solid figures, anatomy, and shading, all without wasting time on needless repetition. So feel free to grab that before you leave. Now, in this example, you can see how the texture of the brush is coming through as well. Now, the background texture is helping it quite a bit here, but if I take it away, you can still see the texture of the brush coming through. If I zoom in here a little bit more, just so you can see it better, you can see it all coming through. It actually works very nicely with skin. See it here as well. And all of this was done with 3 variations of the same brush. Now, in order to understand what that means, I'm going to walk you through that right now. Now, our boy here is going to keep watch while I explain to you what I consider to be the 2 main categories of brushes. So first, we've got hard brushes, and then we've got soft brushes. And there are pros and cons to each. With hard brushes, you get the most control and precision. And also, it's much easier to get a painterly look to it, because the strokes are a lot more visible. Now, the downside is that it can be difficult to blend with the hard brush, so I'll put hard to blend. Now, soft brushes are basically the opposite, so with these you get easy blending. Now, this positive is so powerful that it does come with a number of negatives. So one of them is that you're sacrificing control. So less control. And due to this lack of control, it can often look muddy in the hands of an amateur. Now, this muddy part can also be true for harder brushes, but the difference between the two is that when it comes to harder brushes, you're often forced to learn how to capture planes effectively due to that hard edge. It's a lot more difficult to hide your mistakes with a harder edge because all of your strokes are going to be visible. Now, in contrast, beginners often default to softer brushes because they feel like it's easier to hide their mistakes and their lack of knowledge when it comes to planes and values and whatnot. Now, the brush that I like to use aims to harness the strengths of both of these while also minimizing the weaknesses. Not only am I going to show you how to recreate that, but also how to tailor it to what feels nice to you. If you're getting use out of this, feel free to hit that like button and subscribe so you do not miss out on future videos. Now, in order to make this brush, first we're going to select a default here. So we're going to go with the hard elliptical, which paints like this. And now we're going to take that and we're going to go to the settings. And first we're going to start with the brush tip shape. So we can keep this as is, or you can play around with the roundness a bit. I like to keep it slanted because it feels a bit more organic to me. So we'll just leave it like this for now. But the first change we're going to make is with the hardness. So here it's 100% hard. We're going to reduce it so that it's not so hard that it's a hard edge brush, but not so soft that it's a full-on airbrush either. This way we can hopefully leverage the best of both worlds. So we'll bring it to about, I'll leave it at 35% here. And now it paints like so. Actually, we'll make it a bit softer here. Make it, keep it there, 25, 26 roughly. Now we'll move this aside, and the next change we will make is with the transfer. So we're gonna go here to transfer, then go to pen pressure and set that to, go to opacity jitter, set that to pen pressure. That way you get that effect like so. So if I press hard, it comes out dark. If I lighten my touch, it comes out lighter. And then you get these nice strokes. Now what I'll also do is go over to shape dynamics and turn on the size jitter to pen pressure. And then I'll make the minimum diameter something like 50%. Let's see. Let's make it a little bit more than that. Let's go with about 60. That way, when I press hard, it's thick. When it goes softer, it gets thinner, I should say. Makes it feel a bit more organic. Now at this point, I've already got a decent brush here. So if let's go darker. So at this point, it's already quite easy to blend, and you can still see the strokes somewhat. So I've got the blending power of a softer brush, but also more of the precision of a harder brush. But it's still missing that texture that you saw in my examples. So what I will do now is go over to texture, and we'll just select what's already here, and we'll play around with these settings. So let's see here. I'll change the mode to multiply. And we've got this effect here. And actually it's already looking pretty good, but let's see if I can mess around with that. That's fine the way it is. Leave it right there. And then the depth, I'll leave that at 100. Contrast, that's a bit too much. Leave it right there. And yeah, we'll mess around with that. So let's see here. And there we've got it. Make it a little bit darker. So you see I've got this sort of grainy texture, and it makes it feel a lot more traditional. So blending is easy. I've got the precision of a harder brush, and I don't sacrifice any control for the blending power. I mean, a little bit, of course, because it still is softer than a hard brush, but not so much that it takes too much away. And I can use finer lines. And blend out a bit. But like I said before, I have 3 different versions of a brush like this, so I'll go through those now as well. Now I've named these my sketch brushes, but we're gonna focus on the top 3 right here. So the first one at the top works like this. So if you can see here, you can just barely make out the texture because it's ever so slight. You can see it along the edge. If I zoom in here, you will see that better. So this is my smoothest version of this brush. And if we look at these settings here, you can see how it looks right there as well. And now this next one right below it is a rougher version of that same brush. And so I've spaced out the texture a bit more. And that way, you can see it's just a bit more rough, which makes the texture more visible. And you can see here how visible it is as well. And then last but not least, we've got the roughest version of this brush. And the texture is even more visible. As you can see. And so even with this roughest version of the brush, it's easy for me to get a fine edge. And then to get a more blended transition, like so. So it can serve multiple purposes. And this is with the roughest version. I can do the same thing with the less rough version as well. Now I'm being really imprecise here, but you get the idea. Now, if you really want to see these brushes in action, there should be a video popping up on the screen right about now, so you want to check that out. And don't forget to grab the free guide below this video. And I will catch you next time. Peace.